The last thing you want to see on your $60,000 Tesla is rust and iron fallout caking your body, especially after only a few years of ownership. But unfortunately, Teslas are notorious for rust on the fenders and behind the wheel wells, especially Model 3s. This here is my 2021 Model 3 with rust forming behind both front wheel wells and in the gap between front fender and bumper on both sides. And as you can see here, rust is bubbling under the paint, and I wanted to know if I was alone in experiencing this issue or if it's widespread. So I drove around my town to find other Model 3s, and lo and behold, many of the cars had rust forming in the exact same areas. So since this is in California and we get snow, ice, salt, and lots of little rocks on the roads during Canadian winters, I learned the hard way with Tesla's less than ideal paint quality that you need to take a couple of measures to better winterize your car to avoid rust only a couple years into ownership, which is what we'll be looking at in today's video. So let's get into it. And by the way, please take a second to drop a like on this video and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. All right, so let's start off with the rust forming right behind the fenders, as this is the simplest to avoid by quite literally buying a set of cheap mud flaps off of Amazon. So the main problem, of course, is that as you're driving in the winter, little rocks that are used for traction on the road are flying up and hitting the paint, making microchips in the clear coat and the paint itself, which over time, as salt and water get in and behind those chips, eat away at the paint and the metal rusts from behind, leading to this type of situation after only 3 winters. Now, I don't know if I got a poorly painted Model 3 since this was one of the first models to hit the road in 2021, right after that slight refresh at the time. But regardless, one easy way to curb this is by installing mud flaps, as I've done on my new Model 3, and specifically the ones that come up and above the fender panel, not just the rockers like the stock mud flaps do. And this protects the paint from all of that debris that we just spoke about. So if you're interested in picking some up for yourself, you can find them on Amazon, eBay, AliExpress, basically wherever. They're pretty much all the same. But if you want to support the channel a little bit, don't hesitate to use my Amazon storefront link down below in the pinned comment. The next low-hanging fruit here would be to avoid small rock chips in the paint in the first place, which leads to rust as water can access that metal sheeting underneath. So whether or not you're looking to entirely apply a paint protective film to the front of your car or not, adding a couple strips of PPF in the following areas can really help with that rust prevention, specifically in and around the fenders, behind the wheels, and at the back of the car's doors, where panels don't always align perfectly and rock debris is going to follow the curves of the car and hit any protruding area. Now, I'd recommend you just pick up a roll of 3M adhesive PPF, which can be cut to size and installed in the desired areas. So installing a PPF on the front of the car is usually where most people focus, which does make sense because this is where there's the most contact with rocks and other small debris. However, the bumper is made of plastic. So even if rocks do end up breaking the paint, it's not going to start rusting. And so that's why I'm concentrating my efforts with the PPF to areas that are made of metal and that rock chips could lead to rusting, right? Because filling in and repainting a bunch of little rock chips on your front bumper, if you do them after only a couple of seasons, is only going to cost a couple $100 at, say, a small body shop. Next up in the rust prevention category, we've got a rust preventing oily wax spray. Specifically, I'm using the fluid film product that comes in spray cans or in tubs. I picked this up at Canadian Tire, but it's sold in many other places. So essentially, this stuff is made of wool wax and is great for rust prevention by making a coating that mainly repels water. So that's why we'll be using it around bolts and other areas below the car that are prone to rust and corrosion, like the fenders and the rockers. Let's do that now. So I took a couple minutes here to go around the vehicle and spray all of the exposed nuts and bolts, as well as apply it in all of the panel gaps that have sheet metal in order to reduce the amount of rust. So yeah, for $20, this is an easy pickup and install that'll help keep your car in good shape over the winter by repelling water and reducing rust. Let's now talk about another product that's super useful and necessary when dealing with surface rust on the vehicle, also known as iron fallout. This is when brake dust and other metal particles come up and embed themselves on the paint and then oxidize, leading to little spots of orange rust all over the fenders, doors, and other panels of the car, which is especially visible on white cars. My 2021 Model 3 was always caked in this stuff as the car was white, so you really saw it. And once a season, I buy iron fallout remover from Canadian Tire, which you just spray onto the affected area, and like magic, really, it dissolves that surface rust. Unfortunately, I don't have the car anymore to show you what that looked like and how it worked. And my new Model 3 is only 2 months old or so it doesn't have any surface rust as of yet. But trust me, this product right here works wonders. So jot that down mentally for the spring. Now, of course, we can't talk about winterizing your Tesla without speaking about winter tires. And winter tires aren't mandatory in all American states and Canadian provinces, but here in Quebec, they are mandatory from November 15th to March 15th. And anyways, you'd be crazy to tackle winter without proper winter tires, as they offer much greater traction to the road. And it's downright dangerous to not have winter tires in a northern climate like here. So Tesla does offer a winter tire package for Model 3s, Model Ys, and Model Xs, but they are quite pricey at a couple $1,000s for each. That being said, this is the option that I did end up going with in the first winter that I owned my old Model 3, because I wanted a matching set of rims for my 2021 Model 3 at the time. And although expensive, now I do have 2 sets of rims for my Tesla that match and that I can swap out every season. That being said, I'd recommend you check out Facebook Marketplace in your area, as people selling used rims will often sell them for a fraction of their price new, and the same goes for winter tires. Case in point, I just bought these used Pirelli winter tires for 1 season for $300, so it definitely pays to look. If you've lived through many winters, then you know that each winter season means multiple liters of windshield washer fluid per week and lots of refilling. Luckily, Teslas have a frunk, which is a great storage area for windshield washer fluid jugs, and one recommendation I'd make is to get a funnel to pour your windshield washer fluid more accurately. Now, I know this might sound like a weird tip and or a no-brainer, but take it from me, when it's -20 outside and you're refilling your washer fluid with gloves on, it is so easy to spill it all over the plastic coverings around that front storage compartment. I've done this several times. Luckily, Tesla changed the washer fluid compartment area from up here to down at the bottom of the front area though, but a funnel makes it so much easier nonetheless. So do yourself the favor of spending a couple bucks and avoiding that mess. All right, so those are some good tips to keep in mind this winter season for the exterior of your Tesla, but what about charging tips and overall cold weather best practices? First off, when snow and ice build up on your Tesla, components like the door handles, windows, mirrors, and wipers, all of which are moving parts, well, they can freeze in place, making it very difficult to use the vehicle as it is properly intended. So to ensure maximum range and performance for every drive, it's always a good idea to warm up the cabin and its battery for a good 30 minutes before getting in and driving off. And here are a few ways that you can do this. The first one is to go to Controls, Schedule, accessible on both the charging and climate control screens, to set a specific time for your vehicle to be ready to drive off. The second method is in the mobile app, where you select climate to set your preferred cabin temperature, which will also heat the high voltage battery as necessary. And to note here is that Tesla recommends activating climate settings at least 30 to 45 minutes before departure. And while you're preconditioning, you'll receive a notification on your phone once this is completed. The second thing to consider is your charging port and the latch, where in extremely cold and icy weather, the charge port latch on your vehicle may become frozen, unfortunately, making it very difficult to insert or remove the charging cable. So to address this, you can thaw any ice on the charge port latch by, again, using the Defrost car feature in the mobile app. And this feature will gently warm the charging port, allowing you to easily connect or disconnect the charging cable as needed. And if the charge cable remains in place after defrosting it though, you can try manually releasing the charge cable using this latch on the inside of your Tesla's trunk. Oh, and speaking of the charge port, let's quickly cover charging best practices in the winter. So for charging at home, nothing really changes here. You'll want to plug in your car every day as per usual to maintain a proper state of charge. But for supercharging, it's really important here that you precondition your battery for, again, a good 30 to 45 minutes before arriving to the supercharging destination so that the battery pack is warm and ready to charge as efficiently as possible. To achieve this, all you need to do is set the supercharger as your destination in your Tesla's navigation, and the battery will start automatically preconditioning. Moving on here, Tesla door handles, while definitely sleek, can be a cause for concern in the winter months when and if ice forms over them, making it very difficult to push on the handle and open the door. So of course, preheating your car for that 30 minutes beforehand is going to help melt the ice. But if you're in a rush, let's say, one way to open the door electronically is through the mobile app, where you can click this button right here, which will unlock and unlatch the front driver's side door for easier access. And if ice has built up over the door handles, instead of trying to break the ice with your fist, which could cause scratches and dents to the car door, start by forcefully pressing the foremost part of the door handle. This is going to rock slightly inwards to help break the ice free, and from here you can hopefully enter the car normally. Now, what about if your wiper blades are frozen over as well? Well, if you expect snow or ice to build up when parked, simply navigate to Controls, Service, Wiper Service Mode, and this is going to raise the wipers against the windshield so they can defrost when the windshield defrosts as well. Additionally, you can also turn on wiper defrosters if your car comes equipped with them. And finally here, it's always recommended that you keep your Tesla plugged in even when it's not in use, as this will maintain an optimal state of charge. But this is even more the case during the winter, as the car will utilize the electricity from the charger to keep the battery warm and to precondition it, rather than utilizing its own energy stored in the battery pack to achieve this. So in light of this, it's always going to be recommended to schedule preconditioning if you're a daily commuter, which can be done in the Controls Schedule settings available on both the charging and climate control screens to set a time when you want to precondition your Model 3, Y, X, or S, and this will also prevent the charge port latch from freezing in the first place. All right, so there you have it, the ultimate guide on winterizing, reducing rust, and optimal charging and driving tips for your Tesla this winter. Please keep in mind that you can get all of the accessories spoken about in today's video over on my Amazon storefront, linked down below in the description and pinned comment. So thanks a lot for watching today's video, and I'd recommend you check out one of these two videos right here to learn more about Tesla vehicles. I'll see you in the next one.